Hello, so this recording introduces the idea of the rational consumer. So, to begin with, um, what economists do is they tend to assume that people make rational choices. So that is the kind of basis of economics. Now, I've got two questions there. First of all, is this the reality? Well, the reality, as you'll see in the moment, is no, people don't always make rational choices. And then the second question there, is it a useful assumption? Well, actually, although people don't always make rational choices, it is a useful assumption because it enables us to actually think about things in a fairly structured way, to enable, for example, if you're an event manager and you're trying to set prices for an event, it helps you make some assumptions to make that decision that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Now, just to set this in context, and it's a bit of a fun, I've got an economics joke here. So, why did God create economists? Well, in order to make weather forecasters look good. So there's lots of jokes about economics and economists, and generally, the view is that economists get it wrong a lot of the time. So although we try to actually understand people's rational choices, economists don't get it right some of the time because people are not as rational as we think they are. On the whole, a lot of people do act fairly rationally, but there are plenty of things that make them do things in a rational way. And so basically economists aren't very good at actually forecasting what people might do and what might happen in the economy, despite the fact that obviously trying to do so. They're not bad, but as I say, makes weather forecasters look good. So let's just have a quick look at why decisions might not be rational. I've got a number of things here. So first of all is we have limited information. So as an individual, you don't always have enough information to hand to make a really informed decision about something. And this is sometimes referred to as bounded rationality. So if you look at the textbooks, they will refer to this as bounded rationality. And that is that basically we're making a lot of guesses. So when we are making some decisions, say about purchasing, something related to an event, maybe, choosing which event to go to from a number that are offered to us, we're going to make a guess. We'll make that on the basis of our past experience, some knowledge that we might have about that event, but we're not going to have everything to hand to make a really good decision. Then there's other things there. The second thing there is framing of choices. So, examples there, it can be positioned as a special offer. So clearly, we see this all the time in things like supermarkets. But for instance, sometimes, events might be marketed as, you get in early and you get a cheaper ticket. There may be some other features. So for instance, you're buying a festival ticket and you can buy various add-ons, which are put together as a special offer, and so it sort of frames your choices to make it seem like a positive, good choice. And there's also what's known as nudging people. And actually I will do a recording on nudge theory particularly. So nudging theory is an approach where basically you try to position choices to people to nudge them to make a particular decision. It's often used to actually try to persuade people to do socially desirable things, but also it can be used to, nudge people into making a particular decision that might be beneficial for a company. Then there are things like reference points. So we actually, when we're evaluating what we might do, we often make reference to other things that we might own or might be used in conjunction with that decision. So an example there, we refer to sometimes what we call the sunk costs of a car. So once you've bought a car, which is usually a very big upfront cost, actually running that car appears to cost less relative to something like, say, using public transport, catching a train somewhere, or using the bus. And so, on the face of it, it seems like driving somewhere is the cheapest option. Actually, if we took into account the cost of the purchase of the car in the first place and the wear and tear on that car and all the other things that we pay for, like MOTs and tax and work done to the car, it's probably costing us a lot more. But because that's already been paid for elsewhere, we don't take that into account. And so we often evaluate choices in relation to other things that we might own or were doing at the time. So I would maybe attend an event because I happened to be visiting that place for some other reason at that time, and therefore it might make that seem like a logical decision. Another factor, and quite a significant one, is the impact of other people. So, we often look at what other people are doing around us. What are your friends and family consuming? And there's this idea of keeping up with the Joneses, which was this sort of reference to keeping up with the people living next door, for instance. And so we see what other people are doing, and then we make decisions on the basis of that. And there's this idea of herding or groupthink, so where people follow trends in fashion because this is what they see around them. So you begin to pick up, that all people are wearing that kind of dress this season, so you'll go and buy that as well. And FOMO, so fear of missing out. So there's a group of your friends who are going out to a particular nightclub, and you feel that, oh, everybody's going, I don't want to miss out. You will go and join them. There's other things here as well, like reciprocity. I mean, this is a slightly different perspective on the impact of other people, but it relates to people's being altruistic in their choices. And what's quite interesting here is that when we do various things, we want to be seen to be giving more than receiving. We don't like actually, receiving and benefiting or gaining from other people a lot of the time. So we like to sort of reciprocate. So, for example, if you've made a decision that benefited a friend on one occasion, they might reciprocate back to you and vice versa, but you don't want that to be out of balance. And so, again, you might sort of balance up what you're doing with other people around you, because you might want to sort of reciprocate a favour of having done something. And then there's word of mouth. So we often talk to people about their experiences, and on the basis of that might make decisions about what we purchase. So if you were going to make a decision about going to quite an expensive activity like going to a summer music festival, you're probably going to have talked to a lot of friends and possibly family about their experience of that music festival in previous years, and that would have quite a big part in your decision. And generally, the views of those people close to you will outweigh, what you might read about in terms of other consumer experiences, for instance, online. But there is also this idea of word of mouth, where we learn things from others online. So there's various things to think about people being rational there, and we will pick this up more in some subsequent recordings.